deeper word for comfortable. So his name is Mr. Comfort. That's his name. Hi, I'm Mr. Comfort. How you doing? Right? You know, what he does is he manages to make himself comfortable no matter what's happening. So for example, God says, I'm going to bring a flood. You know, yo is a biblical word. It's the opposite. The old Jewish word was oi. We made it into yo. So like, hey, yo, God, I'm going to bring a flood. Right? And Noah says, yo, God, no problem. You know, I'm going to build my model airplane. You know, it's a little ark. And you know that image of a kid building a model airplane? Parents are killing each other. You know, just huge problems in the family. The kid's just sitting there building his model airplane and following the directions. That's Noah. Right? And he gets all these very precise directions how to build his ark. The world's about to be destroyed, and he's building his ark. He's just following the directions, doing his thing. Right? That's what he does. He does what God commands, says 4 times in the text, which of course are critique, meaning like, get it together. The world's about to be destroyed. You know, get out of your comfort zone. Remember Pink Floyd? Pink Floyd, anyone in Pink Floyd people? Right? They didn't show that in church, but it was around the same time when you may have been affiliated, right? So comfortably numb. Remember comfortably numb? That's Noah. Noah's Mr. Comfort Zone. Right? He's the person who's in his comfort zone. And what we do is, when someone violates our comfort zone, right, of the first person I, hypersensitive self, we sue him. Right? Oh my God, you invaded my space. This way, that way, or the other way. No one can invade my space because we've reified, meaning we've idolatrized. That's a new word I just made up. Right? Meaning we've made it like super important, everything has to bow before the I. No one violates my space. Anyone violates my space? The space of the hypersensitive, reified, narcissistic self, we sue them. Right? No one violates my comfort zone because it's my comfort zone that allows me to somehow get through. Right? A very, very, very tempestuous, you know, and hard world. And so our goal becomes, tragically, to grow old comfortably. Right? Our goal in life is to live as long as we can, as comfortably as we can, pretending that we're as young as we're not. Okay? That's about, you know, that's the dream. Right? And there's this huge explosion in America of seniors magazines, right? Magazines for seniors. And you look at the magazines. I did, you know, about 2 years ago, a little study of the seniors magazines. And I just went through like, you know, 20 issues. And all of the ads were, you can do this just like you did it when you were 20. I mean, one of the big ones of course, sexuality. I mean, would anyone like to make love the way they did when they were 20? Oh my God. Right? How tragic, right? Right? And actually, you want to do a little differently at 70, right? And you want to do everything differently at 70, right? Or at 80, or at 90. That's what it means to become a wise person, to become an elder. We've lost, right? Avant-garde reigns, right? You know, elders, we don't have elders, right? So we want to kind of get out of comfort zones, right? So, you know, all of the kind of sharing, you know, teaching, right, that we want to share is something about comforting the afflicted. The afflicted in each one of us. Each one of us are in some sense afflicted. And the 2 motifs in the stories, or 3, were openings, church, and pain. You know, in the stories that went around. So we all have our senses of affliction, our senses of untransformed wound, right? And, you know, we have our kind of comfort zones. You know, and usually what happens is there's 2 kinds of teaching. There's the teaching that just comfort, and there's the teaching that just, you know, the kind of spiritual Nazi who kind of beats you up, right? And, you know, shatters your ego and kills you. Of course, you never hired him to be a hitman, but he's kind of given himself that job. What the heck? And I've got a few friends who do that in the spiritual world. No names mentioned. Bless them. Thank you. Right. No names mentioned. Right. Okay. Don't behave yourself. Okay. So, and by the way, we're also, you know, you know, just to feel that. So what we want to try and do is we want to be integral, meaning we want the kind of teaching to comfort that which is afflicted in us and to afflict that which is comfortable. And not to fall into the trap of either one of those places. So that's kind of so if you feel yourself really having this wonderful, fantastic, gorgeous time, and you feel just so comfortable, we blew it. So I apologize. Right? I want to apologize in advance if anyone has that experience. That wasn't our intention, okay? Right? I hope that there's some time during this weekend where you feel offended. I want you to feel offended, right? Not because we said anything nasty. Well, Dan sometimes does, but, you know, not too often. When she's sick, you know, the resistance a little down, you never know what's going to happen, right? But more offended, meaning I'm challenged. Like, whoa, what was that? That actually violates the way I think about the world. That actually makes me, oh my, what, oh my, right? I want have an experience of being uncomfortable, right? If you don't have an experience of being uncomfortable, then we just kind of play together, right? On the other hand, if you spend the entire weekend furious and uncomfortable and outraged, we probably blow it. Right? But if there's some kind of dialectical tension, fancy word for saying simple thing, 2 experiences are playing with each other. I'm feeling really comfortable, really deepening, and I'm feeling challenged, and there's some stuff that doesn't seem to make sense to me, I don't really like so much, but I gotta, so I'm just asking double click, look at it again, you know, and let those two things kind of play together. Okay, so that's just kind of by way of introduction. By way of number 2, let me just check in on the time so I really hold our time framework. It's now about 8:30. Well, perfect. So I expected to start at 8:15. We went through about 9:15, so we're perfect. We couldn't be better. So let me just do a little bit of
Do you want this? Maybe so if you need to check it.
Perfect.
You just,
Perfect.
You have to hit that button.
And I can make calls while I'm working, you know, just well. And this is an Apple phone. You can do so many
I
things.
was wondering, is that what that is? That
The amount of things I could do while we're teaching here is unbelievable. There we go, a little Apple commercial. Okay, so yo. Now remember that. Remember that. If you forget everything we said, no more oi. Oi has been transmuted into yo, biblical word. Okay, so let's get started here. Let's get started by finishing, meaning let's just do a second wrap-up of first, second, and third person. Diane kind of took us through and we kind of wove a little bit of a Dharma teaching as we went through the first, second, and third person. And we talked about first person in the kind of spiritual realm, as being the ashram, the I experience, tattvam asi, right? The ultimate I experience is, right, thou art that. But it's subjectivity. It's my first person subjectivity, my first person experience, and everyone talked in the I voice. Then we talked about, and we said that that kind of expresses itself in the world. That's the experience, the invitation of a lot of New Age practice in its best sense, because a lot of New Age is gorgeous, and some of it's not, right? And it's the experience or the invitation of the ashram. Then our second, right, realm was the place of the church. And I want to kind of say something really, important here, at least to me. Right? If it's not important to you, then heck, you're stuck here for the next few minutes. But to me, it's really important, which is what happens is we leave parts of our lives behind. Can you feel that sentence? Sometimes when you can feel a sentence, we leave parts of our lives behind. Right? Those were the church days. Bam. And what we do is we paint those days in a certain kind of color, in a certain kind of emotional resonance, and we affix it with a certain kind of energy. And one of the first healings of love that first, second, and third person does is allow us to recollect and reintegrate our lives. So what often happens, I remember the first time I gave in Israel, in Jaffa, this church, synagogue, ashram, university teaching, first, second, third person, right? And it was just incredible. And Israel's very much like Utah in one sense. Well, first off, there's, the Dead Sea and the Salt Lake, and there's Zion, and there's a tabernacle hanging out, and, there's a rabbi here now too. So, what the hell? Whatever. Okay, I don't know how this is all working. But, the kind of deep thing is that in Israel, there's many, many people who would describe themselves as quote-unquote Jack Mormons, but not from Mormonism, but from Judaism. You've got a similar kind of cultural play there. People kind of grew up in and are no longer in. And what happens is people desiccate their lives. They literally cut out pages from their book of life. Right? Those are my church years. Right? Oh my God. And I've met a whole group in Salt Lake City of beautiful, wonderful people who are now converts to Mormonism, right, who used to be involved in the ashram world, and they've cut out the pages from their book of life of their ashram years. And then I met, about 3 months ago, a professor, right, who had left professorship for he's cut out his academic years. But actually, we literally ripped pages out of our book of life. And the only way to become holy is to become whole. To become whole is to actually integrate the voices, integrate the faces. Right? And whenever I leave a part of my book of life out, right, I've got this gaping hole, which expresses itself as an untransformed wound. We'll talk about it more on Sunday, but it wreaks havoc with my life. And one of the gorgeous weavings of healing that these three faces can do is to actually begin to see what's the offering, right, of the church. When I say the church, I don't mean LDS. I mean the church, the synagogue, the mosque, Hafez. Right? What's the offering of Hafez? The offering of Hafez is the great offering of devotion. And it's the great offering of second person. Hafez and Rumi are the pure elixir, right, of the church, synagogue, mosque. Right? They are just this radical sense of second person devotion and love. And it's so radical that it cuts through, right, everything. And that experience of kind of powerful devotion is unbelievable. It's an unbelievable experience. It's a gorgeous